Alright, hello everyone. Alright, so this video is being made for a number of reasons. But first I wanted to start off by expressing a dream that I had this morning. I woke up this morning, and while we all have our own walks, I looked to the other side of my bed, and while there was nobody there, but there were books, and the only thing that those books contained were things of God, things about God. So my relationship at that moment was with God. Some people are married, some people have relationships, or they have people in their lives. But specifically with prophets, many of them, they're often rejected for a number of reasons, but mainly the truth that exists within them. And when they give truth, they're not well received a lot. They can say one word, and that word can set people off. Well, why then? Is there any value in it? Is there something that people are doing wrong when they do it? And the answer is no. And I'll say it for this reason. When we reject God, God is alone. He has no one else to turn to. He has no one else to express himself to, except for the ones that are willing to listen and raise their hand and say, "Yes, Lord, your servant is listening. Tell me what's on your heart." That's what you're asking the Father, is to tell him what's on his heart. And then he gives you what's on his heart. And sometimes it can be pretty powerful and have lasting effects that will last generations upon generations. Not everybody a lot of people love the idea of the prophetic, but not everybody wants the prophetic. I have to say that in my own life, that the prophetic to me is something that comes with wisdom. And as Solomon stated, with much wisdom brings, I believe it's vexation, and with much sorrow, and with much knowledge brings sorrow or sadness. So to know the things of God, to truly know the things of God, when you listen to his heart, when you go through what he wants you to do. A prophet of the Lord is someone who also goes through what God is going through in the heavens. Well, you say that God is perfect. He doesn't really need anyone. No, he doesn't have to be. He doesn't need anyone, but he chooses to use his prophets to express himself. So his prophets represent who he is. So if he's humiliated, the prophets become humiliated. If he's alone, the prophets become alone. If he's persecuted, then the prophets become persecuted. And he expresses himself through all of creation, through us, so that we can see who he is. Sometimes he does it willingly. Sometimes he does it. Sometimes he gives this to his servants, the prophets. with them knowing, and sometimes he gives it to them with them not knowing how they're being used, because not everything they're ready to hear. But those who have an ear to hear, the Spirit will speak to them. But sometimes they're like, Lord, why? Why am I going through this? What is so profound that you have to speak to me in this way? We all have our own walk. God, He chooses to walk with His servants the way He wants. Not the way we want, the way He wants. But remember that God created us for a reason, and that in the beginning there was a lot inside of God that wanted to come out. So God begot the Word, and the Word went forth, and the Word went forth into His into His images, and that Word did not return void. In other words, Jesus went back to the Father and bare testimony to the Father about what happened to His Word. I think one of the craziest things our God did was speak. He spoke into existence so many things. He has a lot to say. Sometimes we get a word of knowledge. And I think it's funny that when we get a word of knowledge, people jump for joy and get all headstrong about what this word of knowledge means. But if that's one word, think about what would happen if God spoke to us in complete sentences. The power that comes out of Him in complete sentences. And then think about what's written in books, in the books of heaven. If just one word is just profound enough, what about a whole book? What about a story about our lives? What about the story of the Bible, the witnesses, the two witnesses, the Old Testament and the New Testament? What is a prophet? Well, a prophet is just a representation of who God is, from a person within the flesh speaking forth the heart of God. We have different kinds of prophets. Ones who express healing, ones who express deliverance, ones who express the feelings and the burdens of God. We all experience things differently. Sometimes He takes us through different seasons. These seasons, they're not always the same. But we serve a God that doesn't stay in one place. He has a purpose, He does it, and He moves on to another purpose. It's not that what He did was the end-all be-all, but we seem to be so stuck in one season of our lives when we forget that God has already moved 10 miles away. There's a lot of people that say, well, God was already right there. And yes, He's always right there. But if you're moving with God, you're also moving with God's grace, His shalom, or shalom, peace. when a prophet of the Lord moves, he's not moving because God told him to move. He's moving because God's power is being moved in a different area, in a different area of life, to fulfill a particular purpose. And when a prophet moves with God, then power is there where he moved. So the scriptures say God does nothing without his servants, the prophets. But Jesus also said that I do nothing without my Father in heaven. So it requires both to work together. And if the will of God is not being met in earth as it is in heaven, then we are denying the greatest experience ever. Is when we get to know God, we also get to know all the aspects of God, when he turns, when he moves, how he moves, where his power is, where his power isn't. But where his power is also his grace, his love, his mercy. Sometimes we may not see it that way, but it's there. Building a reputation with man. I think it's funny we have prophets that build reputation with men. The prophets, they know many things. They know many things because God reveals many things to his servants, the prophets. But I get this a lot of times where God's servants, supposedly servants, they're given a message by God, but they don't deliver it exactly the way that's internally inside of them. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I often ask myself, Lord, should I be following their example? Should I sprinkle the truth with buttery flavoring and seasoned salt? Should it be smooth to the tongue when it's delivered? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know because I've given the message both ways. I'm not talking about lying, but kind of wedging the truth in there. But what's better? To take off a bandage that's been infected by the body all at once, or to take it off slowly and then to clean it. But then you have to clean it. So how do you clean it? Do you clean it slowly? Do you clean it little by little each week? Or do you do it all at once? I think a lot of people, they want to do things the way that they feel that God wants to do it. But God knows us best how to clean wounds, to clean the wounds of our lives, to clean the trauma, the hurt, the anger, the bitterness, the rage, the unforgiveness, all of these things. So, Those who are in the prophetic, don't be ashamed of what God has called you to. Be bold, but know that there's a time for black coffee, and know that there's a time for coffee that has milk, cream, and sugar. With that I say, God bless you, and have a good day.